All right, we got it going live correctly for once. Let me start you off with a quick commercial from Indoor Entertainment.
Hello, hello, hello. This is your girl, preacher, teacher, motivational speaker, Lady Falana. I'm also the CEO and founder of Endure Entertainment, LLC. When you think of clean entertainment, think of Endure Entertainment. When you think of Endure Entertainment, think of clean entertainment. Introducing the Endure Entertainment Television Network, featured on CBS, Fox, and NBC, nominated by the Gospel Choice Music Awards for Independent Broadcast Network of the Year. Introducing the Endure Entertainment Television Network family, Renee Rodriguez, Michelle Jackson, Evangelist Corey Thomas, yours truly, Ella Michelle Hinton, Virginia Mayo, and Jeanette Wilson, and Goodlow Nippy III. We are on all the major podcast directories: Spreaker, Podcast Chaser, Deezer, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Podcast Addict, Zafon, Spotify, and more. The Endure Entertainment Television Network is seen and heard in 26 countries outside of the U.S. Television isn't all that we do. Endure Entertainment also gives virtual concerts. We're actually going to have these virtual concerts every 3 to 4 months on our online place, The Hub. The Hub is the place where you can come and praise God, tap your foot, and listen to some good, clean music of all genres. Last but not least, Double E's Branding. It is the home of our clothing and accessory lines. You can go now to doubleeasbranding.store. This couldn't be done without the help of a awesome board of directors. Myself, Larry Edwards Jr., Sugar Turner, and Andre Robinson. When you think of clean entertainment, think of Endure Entertainment. When you think of Endure Entertainment, think of clean entertainment. Again, this is Lady Falana.
All right, it's good to be back. School is kicking my butt as usual, but it all leads to bigger things, and that would be in the psychology world. But listen, a couple of things real quick that I wanted to go over is, the Senate majority, or I'm sorry, a bill just went through here in Kentucky. It's called the anti-trans bill. And I've had people that say to me in the last couple of days, because I am against it. And I've had people say, you can't be Christian and not support this bill because they, basically they relay it as a safe family act. And it's to me, it's I'll tell you why. And it boils down to there is statistical facts out there. So we're creating a fear that these transgenders are dangerous. There's almost nothing to back that up, almost nothing. And in the meantime, we've got kids dying of fentanyl overdoses every day. We've got homeless dying every day. We've got hungry kids, and we've got coal miners in Kentucky that are basically just collateral damage. Once the coal's gone, they're gone. They don't matter. What I'm saying is we have a lot more important things to really, truly think about than this anti-trans bill. It's silly. It's a waste of time. And, I put in a post I put up yesterday that, this is, I always hear so many people say, well, what would Jesus do? Hatred's not one of them. And that's to each their own. I just find it disturbing. I really do, because I've got, I'm sitting here with Narcan and fentanyl test strips that I have to pass out. I don't have to. I actually do that willingly, and I like doing it. I've given them to people's parents, grandparents, guys on the street. I mean, I just literally, if I see somebody at the corner begging for money, if I've got one in my car, I'll hand it to them. It's a sad state of affairs when these overdoses are not more of a priority than a trans bill. I personally don't care what anybody wants to dress up as. The pronoun thing gets on my nerves. it just gets on my nerves because I don't know what to call anybody. And, the part where people get offended, it annoys me. That's all. And No big deal on that one. And also, don't agree with the men who want to transition and play in women's sports. I find a lot of inherent silliness right there. But and it really it's unfair. And again, I put my post. I mentioned I can remember when Billie Jean King went out and beat that guy on the tennis courts. I cannot remember his name, but what a misogynistic, mean person he certainly was. Um, and so that adds a little bit of humor to it. But on to other things. Well, no, not yet. What can we think about when we talk about this anti-trans thing? And I just want to talk logically, okay? There's very, very strong logic here that needs to be used, and that is what's more dangerous than a trans person? How about guns? The Klan? As I put up in my post, I truly wonder if the Klan are included in this anti-trans bill. Because as far as I'm concerned, they've been wearing dresses and hoods and dressing up for hundreds of years now. And, there's no real anti-Klan bill that I know of. So that's a thought. And it's stuff like that that really, really bothers me because this time is wasted. And the time they're wasting on this anti-trans bill, or they call it the Family Protection Act, the time they're wasting on there is somebody dropping dead while they're all passing around these papers saying, oh, you're like a female, must be dead. I remember when Barney Fife from the Andy Griffith Show would go in drag. It just is what it is. And again, it's something, it's worth fighting, saying, let's quit changing the narrative and look at the reality of what goes on in this world, where this right here, this box, which you can get free at many, many places. I know in Lexington, you can go to the Hope Center, Voices of Hope, and et cetera, et cetera. And, it's worth it. And it's something that's really of major importance right now is these fentanyl test strips, because there is a rash of young men and women dying because their marijuana is laced with fentanyl. And for the life of me, the only thing I can think of is that any dealer that's lacing it wants to have what would be considered the best weed on the street, I suppose. But other than that, again, there's nothing. I can't get anything in my head to wrap around that to make any kind of sense. So this is what it reminds me of the political landscape right now. I was just watching the news before I got on here, and one of them, or I guess Donald Trump's only lawyer he's got left, came on and he compared Trump to Jesus. And, I want to talk about that in a minute, but this is just a little blurb here on what the landscape of America is reminding me of right now. I think that was easy enough to follow and understand. And it's not okay. And this gets me into, people are always saying, don't use the Lord's name in vain. And I've discussed this before on one of my other platforms. But everybody considers, when somebody says GD, you're taking the Lord's name in vain. And however you look at it, you stub your toe is the best reference I ever used, because I got it from a priest when I was at Lexington Catholic and years ago. And he said, if you stub your toe, do you say, GD that desk? Or do you say DG? I kind of started to get it there. But when I got more into it and more into studying and more into understanding, taking the Lord's name in vain, I look around and I think of the Jim and Tammy Faye Bakers and the stuff that's still going on, the Joel Osteens. And, when you're placing yourself above Christ and, pretending to be the liaison to God in order to suck your peers dry, It just kind of becomes just absolute nonsense at that point. And I don't get it. I don't get how people get so easily sucked into the group polarization and not just say, enough. It's just, it's utter chaos out there. And I really mean it to say, think about it. To think about the people who are out there starving, the people who are on the streets, the homeless, the kids who can't afford lunch at school. And really, seriously, they're putting a big part of this bill on the kids being in danger at school. And that really probably ticks me off more than anything, because you've literally got kids that can't afford to get lunch at school. And we're busy passing an anti-trans bill instead of saying, okay, how about these starving children? And I'm not being illogical. I'm not making this Democrat Republican. I'm saying this is just silly and nonsense. If your voice is there, everybody wants to jump on the bandwagon that, let's say, is not gay or far right, and chastise these people as if they're the second coming of Satan. And that's not for us to decide in the first place. Where did it become so cool for us to be so judgmental? And me personally, I haven't voted for any of these people that are trying to change the narrative now. Their favorite thing to say is woke. And I return that with one question myself: is what does woke mean to you? And most of the time, people aren't going to be able to answer that because they have no idea. It's just a buzzword. And that's where it gets dangerous. And, one more thing, since I know I'm really not supposed to talk on politics on here, but if I get in trouble, I'll get in trouble. But, when it comes to this whole Trump thing, and, he's already put out a thing on his True Social, whatever it is. I don't even look out of that. I don't even look at that out of curiosity because I don't want to give it hits. And about protesting. And, I just read this on the Yahoo News feed earlier. He's, again, did we not learn a lesson from January 6th that just go ahead and rinse and repeat this same thing? I mean, he's not calling on protest because he's bored. And, he's calling for protest too, from what I read, in Waco on the 30th anniversary of what happened in Waco. If you don't remember, that was David Koresh and his cult that the FBI had to make a judgment call. I don't know. There was a lot of collateral damage there. I was a kid when this happened. And, just research it yourself, Waco, Texas, and it'll come up. David Koresh, who basically made himself out to be Jesus, and took a lot of lives with him. And that's not the only the Branch Davidians, I think, is what they were called. And this is just a repeated thing through history, and I don't understand why it even needs to be or has to be repeated. If we look long enough in our background, and we go, right now I'm working on a paper to understand groupthink and polarization, and I've gone back to the Trail of Tears. And leading into the Trail of Tears took me into the Trail of Slavery, which again, it ends up for me to finish because I've got a time frame. And what my first project was the race massacre in Tulsa in 1921. And all this bonds together in a really, really creepy way, which is a menace to society, to say the least. A lot of it boils down to what happened in the during the Trail of Tears, and leading into the Tulsa Race Massacre of 1921 was the reemergence of the Klan in that particular area of the country, which was Oklahoma, and it goes as far as Tennessee and I'm trying to remember all of them, Tennessee, Georgia, and just on up that line. It's a scary thing to research, but it's also very important that we research these historical events, and to at least give ourselves a little bit of knowledge of Okay, why did this happen then? What was the root cause and effect? We just keep doing it again. And again, I'm going to go back to the why isn't there an anti-Proud Boys bill? I mean, the same stuff keeps happening over and over throughout history. It's it's redundant for me to keep talking about it, and honestly, it's a waste of my time. But it fires me up because it's just so, where are we putting our priorities? If these are the scales right here, and we're looking at anti-trans and putting that all the way down, that weighs the most. And we've got all these other disasters, death, and destruction. From again the fentanyl, the Narcan. I can't push that enough. I think everyone should carry Narcan in their car. But uh, that's me doing that on my own. It's not somebody telling me to or anything like that. And I'm sorry, I've been working on homework all day, so I'm flustered. And when I get like that, I get trouble getting it all together. But let's go on to something happier. I wanted to mention that coming up in May, I'm going to do a special show 2 years later about when I actually died, which is something important to talk about, and my actual salvation and the life that I got back and rebuilt through Christ. I'll tell you, a lot of people around my certain area don't consider me very, as they say, religious, because I don't beat the Bible into people's heads. I I don't, and I have a reason for that. When God brings my testimony to me, it's to tell that story of His miracle, not Goodlow's miracle. And I say that all the time, but I mean it. I legitimately mean that. It's God's miracle. And let me show you a picture real quick of when I was healing up in the hospital and just show you something. I mean, that's scary. Look at that one. I'm literally bald. And that's what alcohol does to you. And now my hair's fairly long. Because I had this epiphany when I was healing, and it's like I was praying because I prayed a lot. I didn't understand why the Lord was saving me because I didn't feel worthy of it, and I was honestly content with dying. I mean, literally for those who are just tuning in for the first time, I was sent home to supposed to have hospice care, and I fired them the first day, but I was terminal, and that's the best way to put it. So, against everything I was told, my significant other Beth was told, and my sister Elena was told, is that I was going to die. There, I was not going to make it. 3% chance of me living. And man, I started praying, and it's just one day, one magical moment, and this is God's magic now, not David Copperfield. Um, I was like, Lord, forgive me, please forgive me, and it's just such a, I know it gets on people's nerves because I tell it so much, but it's glorifying. The truth of the matter is, it's that one prayer that started it. I mean, I'm talking, I wanted to do, the usual 3 minute prayer, God forgive me. And it turned into 2.5 hours. And ever since then, I've been healing. And I'm, people always say there's no, people on the other side will say there's no such thing as you're healed. I beg to differ with that situation because that is a fact of the matter with me. And again, I mean, look, dead alcoholic. Sorry, I know that cut out. The severe dead, what they considered an alcoholic at that time, that's actually a word you don't use anymore. You use alcohol use disorder or substance use disorder. And you know, I look at that stuff because it fuels my desire to do better and to help others and to give back. And honestly, these roadblocks I get hit with are just absolute nonsense. And that's the reason I raised my voice, because we are supposed to fight for God. We're not supposed to sit there on our hands and say, I don't talk politics. We don't talk politics and religion. I don't have, I revamped my group page on Facebook, and I don't have it as a page that you have to be Christian to be on that page. I don't care where anybody comes from, what anybody does. I can tell my story, my testimony, and if they don't believe it, I can show them pictures all day, and I keep my medical records on hand. It's there's no way in this world, according to this world, that I am supposed to be here, or I'm even here. It's one of those things that I can't tell you why it happened, but I can tell you what happened and how. And hopefully that resonates with some people along the way. And I get there. For those of you that don't know me, I'm working on my master's in psychology with a concentration on substance use disorders. Because I decided when I really started getting better that I wanted to. It was inside me to give back. And what can I give back more than anything? It's the knowledge of how, what, when, where, why. And if you look behind me, very top shelf up there, right there, there's a big bottle of Woodford Reserve whiskey, and there's some more bottles in there that I'm going to give them away. But honestly, because there are responsible drinkers out there, I don't condemn people who drink. So please don't ever get me wrong on that one. I still hang out with my same friends, but it doesn't, it pushes me to look at that and look at what I consider to be the evil in liquor, which is I'm somebody who absolutely, here's how awkward I can be at times. I don't like the taste of alcohol. I don't like the smell of alcohol. And when I would drink, I would seriously turn up a bottle of vodka, count to 10 and down that much. So it was almost like this, I can correlate it to the same way somebody uses like a heroin or something, you get that shot and you could feel it go through your body. And I could feel the alcohol go through my body and calm me down. And, uh, things like that. It was self-medicating, and it was denial of a huge problem in my life. And beyond that, it was a when I first went to the rehab in Nicholasville that I wouldn't recommend to my worst enemy. I and really I don't have any enemies. A lot of people don't like me, but that's okay. I've got a when I first went to that rehab, um, I had told them that, I remember somebody asking me what I thought was most wrong with me, and I said heartache and the loss of God, which I was quoting Jim Morrison from the '60s band The Doors. And I really, looking back on that, I mean it. Because for me, a severe alcohol use disorder. I mean, if I drank myself at that something, and in a 4 month period, I mean, I went through thousands of dollars in alcohol and hotel rooms, and just hiding from the reality. And I think a part of me will always believe or know that I was basically so miserable that I was suicidal, but I didn't know that. And that, from what I've learned or gathered, is that's when the devil's supposed to be speaking to you or through you. And it was a nightmare. And I don't look back on it with fond memories, but I look back on it as I wouldn't change anything, because I wouldn't be where I am today. And I try and drill it into people. Some people think I come off as arrogant or a know-it-all or something like that, but listen, I spend more time researching and studying than most people I know through life. And that's not a braggart thing. It's because I have that desire that comes from Christ. And that's where it came from. And nothing's going to change that. I mean, how do you go from a now malnourished dead man with a balding head? I mean, I lost a lot of my hair. And I mean, pitiful. And to now, And I don't have hair plugs or things like that. I can assure you. It's just a matter of, and this is the part I was going to get to, which I got caught in a rabbit hole, which I'm very accomplished at, is where I was praying and I, about what can I do to prove myself, Lord, and it was first I was doing testimonies. I got caught up in a trap in that, and secondary, it was like I heard him. I I was thinking and praying and talking, and it was like, "Don't cut your hair, don't cut your hair." And I know that sounds so weird and whatever, but and growing my hair out is people who knew me before knew I wore a shirt and tie every day. My hair was basically when I still had it before I drank that away. I mean, it was always perfect, well kept, and I wouldn't have the longer beard and the hair now. And I'm not trying to come off as looking like Jesus, but it's one of those sacrifices is to not be so vain and uh, you know it's easier said than done. I can assure you on that one, but um, I think it's just another thing that shows. Now I do take hair supplements, but I think it's another thing to show that God is mightier than medicine, even though I'm a science person. Because I think it's nonsense to, as the far right's trying to do right now, is throw science out of everything with Fauci. And that's absolutely nonsense. And a good question that I always ask of the people that want to throw science completely out the window: like, who created the scientists? I mean, who gave them this ability to be able to assist in curing? I always, I always really get turned off when people say, saving, we're saving lives, we're saving lives one at a time. No, you're not. And especially somebody that's praising Jesus and taking credit for saving lives is kind of twisted in a large sort of way. Um, so, what I did tonight, and when I put up, and I would suggest I can't play that one on here, or I would, but I want more people to listen to it. Bob Marley's, I think it was 1979, One Love. And in it, he depends on which version you listen to, but in the version that I always hear, the one that struck me was one day I was just sitting at home. I still couldn't walk at this point, and watching a documentary about the late great legend there, and he said, "Give thanks and praise to the Lord, and it'll be all right." And yeah, that makes so much sense. The only thing I ever knew about Bob Marley in my younger years is that Bob Marley was associated with drugs. But when I say that, I want people to think deeper and not just be um, uh, basically going through the meat grinder. Because if you don't use your own thoughts, your own moral compass, your own ethics, and you're going on something like Marjorie Taylor Greene said the other day that, she was denouncing the aid to Ukraine because she'd never heard of Vladimir Putin invading a European country. And as I said on my post, figure that out yourselves. But Ukraine is the eighth most populated European country, um, and it's just, I mean, it's we have people in charge who are misleading, and it's man, my biggest warning through this whole experience with with salvation is was Matthew 15:14. It stuck in my head. I've got it on my bracelet there, which says GN3 and Associates. Um, but I'll paraphrase it, but ignore them because they're blind, and the blind will lead the blind into a ditch or pit. And I really thoroughly just think about that, and it just It's so true. But it's not something that's always paid attention to. Well, because of as I've learned, most people that not most people, I can't say that. Some people, I got to quit saying that most people because generalizing things has become one of our big issues too. But some people who are beating the Bible and screaming praise Jesus can't tell you two verses, and that's where I consider myself blessed with Catholic school. For the couple of years I was there, was I learned to read the Bible, whether it was a punishment or um, uh, I can remember reading through it one time when I figured out that my mom was dying, maybe 17, 18, I don't know. But I read through it then when my mom was dying because I was trying to get clarity. I was a confused kid at the time, and I just didn't understand why somebody she didn't smoke, didn't drink, didn't curse, why she was so young. I mean, just in her 40s and dying of breast cancer. It was I think that was a big part of my downfall is I don't think I ever accepted it. I have in recent times, that's, I remember when she died, her and I, the summer before, had gone to see the Crow movie at the drive-in, and there's a line in there where this lady's shooting up heroin, and the Crow, Brandon Lee, Eric Draven was the character's name, grabs her arm, and all the heroin starts coming out, and he says, "Mother is the word for God on the lips and hearts of all small children." And I was like, "There's a lot of truth to that." So, and those of us that are blessed to have had a good mother, I pray for a lot of my friends now. We're getting to the age where we're losing parents. And, I caution myself from ever saying, I understand to people because I'm a firm believer in case by case basis. We're all individuals. We all have different fingerprints and we all have different experiences. So you can empathize with somebody, you can care about their well being, but saying you understand is not. I don't know. I don't like it when it was said to me, so I don't say it to others, and it's kind of it goes back to that thing: treat others the way that you'd want to be treated. And hopefully my stance on trans is not. I know it makes some people mad. I get it. But I would just say to think about it. What are our priorities right now? And to use the excuse that we're protecting children and yet children are starving and their parents are dying of opiate overdoses. Yeah, I think we've got a little backwards way of thinking right there. And it's even, I know Mike Pence, he was Donald Trump's vice president, but I do know that he's a Christian walking and talking man. And, after he got the news today where Trump has already called for protest, because he's going to be perp walked on Tuesday. From what it looks like. And perp walk means, I know the last thing I read was the Department of Justice wants to handcuff him and make him walk the walk and actually put him under arrest, which I mean, he'll get right out, I would assume. But it's a matter of, as the United States, we're all supposed to be treated equally. That's in good and bad. So the punishment is equal for all of us. And well, Mike Pence said that absolutely not. We're not going to tolerate violence this time. And the irresponsibility of the former president to call for a protest is that's beyond words. It's malignant narcissism at its finest. So there we go. But I'd like to finish everything on a better note, and I always grab my Celebrate Recovery Daily devotional. It's 30th anniversary, 365 pages. Okay. And the way I do it is I just open it up. I don't pick these out beforehand or anything like that. It just is what it is. And usually it fits what I'm talking about or thinking or feeling or something. But that's just what I say. I mean, I don't know how else to put it. It just seemingly fits every time I open it. All right. Let us all who take refuge, this is called Sun Protection Factor, day 139, Psalm 5:11 and 12. Let all who take refuge in you be glad. Let them ever sing for joy. Spread your protection over them, that those who love your name may rejoice in you. For surely, O Lord, bless the righteous. You surround them with your favor as with a shield. All right. Now, here's the devotional written by some anonymous author. It was a rookie mistake. I had been doing some work outside on a sunny summer day, and I ended up with a bad sunburn. I should have known better. It's hardly news that the sun can be dangerous, a formidable foe that can lead to cancer. At the very least, it can cause deep burns and great discomfort until the damaged skin heals. Fortunately, the sun's destructive rays can easily be subdued by a simple sunscreen. It's foolish to work out in the sun without our SPF, sun protection factor. In the same way, it's foolish to try and face any part of our new lives without our spiritual SPF. In that case, SPF stands for study, prayer, and fellowship. I also call it my sun protection factor. The more I stay in the world, the more I stay in the Word and study what it says, the more I talk to the Father through prayer. The more I fellowship with God's people, then the more protected I am from the dangerous and damaging behaviors. Why risk going out into the world without protection? And when he spells sun in here, I just picked up on that. It's SON capitalized, sun protection factor. So he's calling out to the Lord for his protection. That's kind of nifty, and it does fit. Another quick story is around 2004. So I had 20 some spots, cancerous spots removed off my back and my chest. And that was from abuse of the tanning beds in college. And, yeah, use your SPF. If that's something only message, but I implore everybody to just make a call, especially if you're in Lexington, Voices of Hope, Hope Center. I know many other places give them out too. I just don't have the list on me right now, but get a thing of Narcan. You really, literally don't know when you're going to use it. I mean, I know in Lexington, Richmond, and the surrounding areas, we've had a plethora of overdoses in Waffle House bathrooms, Shell stations, on the side of the road. I heard one testimony from a guy who was he literally was driving, saw some kid walking down the road, and that kid just collapsed. And that's what it was. And he did have Narcan with him because he was a group member of NA. And so he happened to have it on him, and that probably really, that's the biggest assist you can give God in saving a life right there. And another important thing that I really, again, can't stress enough is these fentanyl test strips. You can use those for marijuana and the like, everything, just to basically it just tests for fentanyl. So at least you know what's going in your body, because so many of these deaths are unnecessary, unfair, and these people don't know what they're putting in. And it's no different than saying when I was a kid, it was obviously during the AIDS scare, and stay protected. That was a big thing that they pushed for back in those days. And share the love. That's the same as giving a hug, and it really is. So for all those out there, I know so many parents and so many of my friends have lost loved ones, and I know of a lot of people who have passed from this epidemic. It's as bad as it's really getting there, and it's scary. And that's my only hope, and my only lesson tonight is, instead of voting for or promoting these people who look, let's get it straight. Their mind's not set on what would Jesus do. Their mind's set on what is everybody else doing. And it's truly blind leading blind. But anti-trans opiate, anti-trans opiate. Um, we need to work. There's so many bigger issues out there to address right now than this nonsense. So that's my opinion. It's not. I don't. Endure doesn't share my opinion, and most people that do share my opinion won't speak about it because they don't like to ruffle feathers. But either way, love and prayers to everyone, and good night from me. And I should see you all next week. Maybe it depends on how school is going. So we'll go from there. And